They got some safeties I think are going to be really good players. You do have to look at the new faces stepping in. Tony Mitchell and Jerron Manning specifically. Tony Mitchell comes out of East Mississippi Community College, another really good signee for State in this offseason as a JUCO transfer. Started his career at Alabama, 5-star recruit coming out of high school. Gets kicked off of the team. So State's got a couple of these guys who were dismissed from Alabama on the roster that you're expecting to be contributors. But, man, another physical, hard-hitting type guy. 6'1", 215, so a little bit on the bigger side, kind of similar to Isaac Smith and build, similar in that they're both guys who want to go and lay the lumber and make an impact, but also probably a guy that's got a little bit more athleticism to him as well. I think from a pure talent standpoint, he's probably right up there as one of the most talented players on the entire defense, and that's a guy that you're going to want to get involved. Jerron Manning steps over from Old Dominion, where last year he was incredibly productive with over 80 tackles. I believe it was 3 interceptions, a few pass breakups, some tackles for loss. A guy who was just sort of all over the field for the Monarchs and had a really good coverage grade, according to PFF, last season within the Sun Belt Conference. That's another guy stepping in that sounds like made an impact in the offseason and you think is a good player. So if, again, you're playing Jerron Manning and Tony Mitchell as your top 2 guys at safety with Isaac Smith playing sort of a hybrid type role, that's a really good group. But you also have some experienced guys who are not just terrible players. Brylan Lanier returns, and I think Lanier should be a little bit more comfortable this year. I think he'll just be playing as sort of that deep middle safety. He's a guy State fans kind of are going to be iffy about, especially because of the play he had against Georgia where he looks to just give up on a touchdown, just let a guy go and score. It was a tough look for him for sure, but it feels like he's bounced back from it. And he's a guy who made some flash plays for State a year ago. And I think playing as a safety, not having to play corner where he had to play like half of last season because of injuries, I think will help him out. Hunter Washington is a veteran on the roster. I get Hunter's not a guy that has ever been a true superstar for State, but that's a veteran. And having veterans at the safety position is a good thing. And it's one of the things at safety, like just having guys who understand where they're supposed to be is sort of one of the biggest things you can just ask for from a defense. You don't necessarily need guys who are superstars. You have guys who know where they need to be. And I think Tyler Woodard in his second season coming out of JUCO can kind of provide you a little bit of the same. It's a safety room where I think, again, you've got some reason to be excited. I didn't even talk about Stonka Burnside, who makes the move from wide receiver to safety after last season in the opportunities he got in special teams, just continually laid the lumber. And we know this is a guy who's got big-time athleticism. We know this is a guy that coming out of high school, many people felt like, yeah, he could play receiver, but if he plays safety, he's going to be a stud. And State obviously gives him the opportunity to play receiver. They're probably still going to give him some chances to catch some passes this year, but now he's at a safety position where he probably suits him a little bit better. You've got a lot of talent and depth in that room as well. I think linebacker and safety, I feel really good about the options Mississippi State has. So you start talking about protecting the middle of the field, both in the intermediate to deep parts of the field. I think State's got some great options. I really like the rooms. I think they'll be able to rotate bodies. I think they've got guys who can play and be impact players, and you should build the defense around those groups. Now, the elephant in the room defensively is cornerback, because that is a spot where, I think D-line, linebacker, safety, I can sit here and confidently say Mississippi State is improved from where they were a year ago. I cannot say that about corner. Because corner, you lost your number one player in Bryce Pollock to Texas Tech. And I know he was not a shutdown corner on the outside, but he was a solid starter. He was graded as a top 10 corner within the SEC a season ago by PFF. That is a significant loss. Like, he was one of the few guys on the State defense last season where you didn't want to lose him to the portal. And he ends up transferring out. And they didn't do a great job of addressing that need with the additions they made in the offseason. You get Javen James from Kennesaw State, who was kind of a solid player at Kennesaw, but not a guy that on paper you look at and say is ready to be an SEC starting corner. The intriguing addition through the portal is Dwight Lewis III, who comes from Marion College at the NAIA ranks. 6'1", 190. Got
a
good.
Little under.
No, that's good.
Would you consider that's good size for that position, you'd say?
Yeah, no, that's good size for corner.
All right.
Yeah, for sure. That's good size at corner. 6'1", 195, actually.
Oh, 6'1". Okay, okay. I don't know what I heard in the height, but 6'1's pretty good.
Yeah, 6'1", 195. He's got good size at corner, good ball skills. Was someone who was able to make plays last season over the last couple of years at Marion. Again, in AIA, good tackler. They feel he's got good athleticism. I mean, the traits are there to be a power conference player, and other power conference programs wanted him. Wisconsin and Arizona were among his final three in this transfer up. The evaluation is that this guy can play. But we are talking about a massive change going from, again, NAIA football to SEC football. Can he pull that off and be someone that can contribute for you right away? I don't know, but they kind of need him to, because you just don't have a lot of clear answers in this room, which is where you start to look at the guys who are coming back. You know, Kelly Jones is going to be one of your starters on the outside. At this point, Kelly's going to start. 6'4", 195. At 6'4", that is massive for a corner. You do not see 6'4" corners. The guy runs blazing fast. We think the potential is sky high. We know the potential is sky high based on the speed and based on the size that he has. If he can develop into a big-time corner, you are talking about a first-round draft pick within the next couple of years, because guys who are that big and can run that fast, if you can play corner at a high level, you are a hot commodity. He has not shown to this point in his career that he can play cornerback. Now, I will give him credit. In the Egg Bowl, going up against some good Ole Miss receivers, he played well. He played his best game of the year in the last week of the season against a good receiving corps. He stepped up and played well in that game. Whatever he did in that game, he has got to build upon going into the season, because he is State's top corner going into the year. Like, they did not bring someone in to become Bryce Pollock on this team, who you were hoping, again, Pollock could have taken a step forward and been a really good player for you going into this season. They need Kelly Jones to step in and at least give you what Bryce Pollock was able to give you. Now, who's going to start opposite of him? Diego Brumfield, possibly. Didn't get to play for you much last season, but a guy who at Memphis a couple years ago was a starter, had a lot of production, but also a guy that you kind of question, is he really an SEC caliber player? I don't know. Do you turn it over to a young guy like an Elijah Cannon? Probably not. You do have an intriguing young player in Kyle Johnson, who's a 4-star freshman signee. Is that a guy who, based on recruiting profile, can step in a little bit and be someone who can play for you? Now, the name of intrigue that has kind of come up here over these last few weeks is another transfer, but a JUCO transfer, Amarian Jet Jefferson. This is another guy coming out of the JUCO ranks that I've heard from a lot of people. They like what they see when they watch the kid, and they think he's played well this offseason. There's a chance he's able to step in and contribute a little bit. From T. Watley, I have some faith in Kelly Jones. Do you think the safeties can help some of the corner deficiencies? Possibly. But part of the issue there is corners are still kind of inevitably going to end up on an island. That's part of you're just going to get that happening for you a little bit more. There are ways you can go about helping that group out. I don't think State fans would want to see it. And it's frankly building more off the type of defense that they played early last season, where you were getting 3 high safeties, 3 down linemen, like 5 guys in the box, and you're just playing a lot of drop 8. I don't think a lot of fans want to see that, but I do think that's a way that you can help your corners out a little bit by putting less pressure on them. Now, the other way you help your corners out is getting more pass rush. That is the thing for this unit last year. It's hard to blame them for some of the bust in coverage when they had to cover, for very long periods of time because there was no pass rush. Quarterback had all day to throw. You have to be able to get after the quarterback much better than they were able to last year. So if you were better up front and you get more pass rush, that's going to help this unit out. But yeah, Marion Jefferson, that's someone that there's some intrigue about. Maybe he can step in. I keep saying maybe.
I'm actually curious. Yeah, I'm curious about him because I've heard some good things about Jet. They call him Jet Jefferson.
Yes.
He it was interesting. At Park Lane Academy, I found this out. Was he actually played quarterback, not to be confused with his current position at corner, but he passed for over 1,000 yards He rushed. He's fast, dude. I mean, he's got over 1,000 yards rushing and 14 touchdowns rushing, 5 100+ yard rushing games. On defense, when he played in high school, he had 21 tackles with 5 interceptions. That's a guy that had some experience, and you see it a lot in high school, playing both ways. But to have the numbers he did on defense too, just also factor in his speed. I think you need that, especially on the defensive side today. Even if you're a team like Mississippi State, you got to have that speed. I would not be shocked if they find. Well, I'll say this. I would be disappointed if they don't find time to put him on the field if he's really healthy and ready to go. They got to play a guy like him, I think.
The potential's there for sure. He can be someone that can be an impact player, but they need someone to. And again, I keep saying maybe. They have options, but they don't have anyone that's proven. Like you do not have in Starkville right now a surefire number one SEC level corner. That is a concern. Now, does that mean they won't have one? No. Does that mean they won't have two? Also, no. You might look up at the end of the year and you ended up having a duo that played really, really well over the course of the season. But this is the group that is the big concern for the team overall for the year. Again, they've got some guys who are talented. They've got some guys who could end up being solid players. I don't think they need their corners to be superstars to be improved defensively, but they've got to find a way to get competent play on the outside. They're going to need some guys to step up for sure.